Guten Moed, a guten Erev Shabbos to everyone. The background of today's video is the Sukkah, a Sukkale Akleine, from Bretalach Gemeine, a small dingy Sukkah from dilapidated boards, rickety walls. We sit in the Sukkah. The Chabad custom is to have a sukkah that does not have any noise sukkah, any external beautification of the sukkah with pictures, but rather the biggest beauty and the best beauty is the sukkah itself. The walls themselves, the schach itself, the people themselves in the sukkah make the sukkah. So I share with you a few stories of inspiration for Zalman Serebryanski. A friend, a childhood friend, a Lubavitcher, for whatever reason, he didn't have yechidus, he didn't have a private audience with the Rebbe for his bar mitzvah, nor did he receive a letter for his bar mitzvah from the Rebbe. This was very unusual because we all of us friends, we all had yechidus with our families for the bar mitzvah, where the family went into the Rebbe and the Rebbe wished brachas and sometimes tested the bar mitzvah boy a little bit on the maimer or the pilpul. And of course there was a letter sent to the bar mitzvah boy for the bar mitzvah. And this friend of mine, for whatever reason, didn't have it. Or at least he thought he didn't have it. For his 60th birthday, or close to it, he received the letter from the Rebbe that was written 47 years ago, a few days before his bar mitzvah. To make the story brief, after his father passed away, his father, when receiving a letter from the Rebbe, would put it in a sefer, in a book, in his Sfarim shelves. And when he passed away, they were cleaning up, and one of the grandchildren took the Sfarim, took the books to his house. And before Rosh Hashanah this year, he called my friend, and he said, I have to show you something. And he WhatsApped him a picture of the Rebbe's letter to him with his name a few days before his bar mitzvah. And he says, is this your letter? My friend almost collapsed. He couldn't believe it. The Rebbe indeed did send him a letter for his bar mitzvah. It came 47 years later. He celebrated his 60th birthday a few days ago. This was the biggest birthday gift one can get. And besides being a gift coming directly from the Rebbe 47 years later, it's an opportunity not only for him, but for us to realize that what the Rebbe said after the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away is so true. Where Elder Hasidim asked him and bemoaned the fact, what's going to be now? Our Rebbe passed on. This was before the Rebbe became officially the Rebbe of Lubavitch, Yud Shvat, 1951, that first year, the year of the Histalkos from 50 to 51. What's going to be? And the Rebbe said, don't worry. The Rebbe, referring to our Rebbe, said about the previous Rebbe, we called the Rebbe, he said, the Rebbe will answer you, whether it be through the door, through the window, through the roof. You continue writing and communicating to the tzaddik, to the Rebbe. I believe that my friend's story that he just shared, and I shared with you, emphasizes this, especially now, Sukkos, Zman Simchaseinu. How can you be with Simcha? The Rebbe physically is not here. We don't see him. We don't hear him. We see videos. We hear tapes. It's gewaldig. You're right? But it's not, as we say in English, the real McCoy. Rabbi Isai, wrong. It is the real McCoy. Because if the chassid develops the relationship and continues feeling and living and believing that the Rebbe is with him or her, the Rebbe will answer you, including receiving a letter from him even 47 years later. No more has to be said. Everyone understands. And this happened. This is not, fantasy. This is one of my best friends. This happened. This is real. Another story. In the 1960s, there was a issue with lulavim and in Eretz Yisrael, and they started to plant canary lulavim outside of Yerushalayim. Canary lulavim are not from date trees, palm date trees, and they slope downwards. They don't stand. The leaves are not erect up, straight tall. And Moshe Feinstein wrote a tshuva that it's invalid and you're not allowed to take them even b'di'evet. A very, very strong tshuva, very strong response for the invalidation of such lulavim. In Melbourne, Australia, this is what they had, and what should they do? Zalman Serebryanski, a founder of Chabad Moistus in Melbourne, sent by the previous Rebbe as a shliach there in 1949 with others. He came to Reb Pinchas Ash, who was a student of his in yeshiva, and he was his mashpia. And Pinchas Ash was selling lulavim esroigim. So Pinchas Ash, knowing about this controversy, he got the kosher lulavim somehow. And when Reb Zalman came to buy his lulavim esrog from Pinchas, he sold him. He gave him the best type of esrog that he had, and he said, "Here, I have a beautiful lulav for you." So Reb Zalman said, "A lulav I get from Reb Aaron Feiglin." Aaron Feiglin was a local yid there who brought in lulavim, and it was a canary lulav. So Pinchas Ash told him that it's a canary lulav, and that Moshe writes it's invalid even b'di'evet. So Reb Zalman said in his Yiddish, English, Australian accent, he said, "I will take my lulav like every year from Reb Aaron Feiglin. What do you think in Russia we had palm tree lulavim? No. Date lulavim? No. We had these type of lulavim. Are you going to say that all the Yidden, tzaddikim, rebbes, rabbonim, Rosh Hashiva, Litvish, Hasidish, etc., all made a bracha on a puzzle, on an invalid lulav? Chas v'shalom." And that's what he did. Several years later, going into the 70s, 80s, someone asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach of Yerushalayim about this Shem Shaila, and he said, "It's kosher and you could use them, because what would you say that we in Russia, years before, all of us use such lulavim and the apostle? God forbid." The exact same thing that Reb Zalman said to Pinchas Ash, Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach paskind in halacha in Yerushalayim in the early 80s with the same logic. And I heard the story, I heard Pinchas say the story, and it reminds me of a nakuda, very important nakuda. One is, God forbid to say that Yidden who did things over the years, now that we know kind of better, smarter, we're more frum, chas v'shalom, to invalidate anything of the past. And number two, maybe the past was correct, and what we're doing today isn't exactly the way it needs to be. Maybe, just maybe. this isn't chas v'sholem, God forbid, an address to go and be makel and be lenient. I'm not saying that. But to remember that when Yidden, when Jews do something, even if it seems to be contrary to, current day thinking and even halacha and things like that, we have to be very careful to invalidate a Jew's connection to Hashem in a positive way. May Hashem help that we take these stories and we use them and share them with our family and friends. It's Shabbos Chol Hamoed, and then comes Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. And you know that the Rebbe Rashab said those that will dance the 48 hours of Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah with intense, passionate dances and singing and then clapping will fill up their buckets of blessings, and especially blessings of Parnasa. So Rabbi Say, make the best of it. You could say Lil Chaim, you should say Lil Chaim if your health allows it. You don't have to chas v'sholem, you shouldn't abuse the alcohol, and the adults should guard the alcohol from teenagers and others who might tend to enjoy a drink and overdo it. Very important to be careful about this, and we should be zeicha to the Geula Shleima. We'll be zeicha to be in the Beis HaMikdash and celebrate Simcha Beis HaSheva in the Beis HaMikdash Bekarev Mamish. Amen ve'amen.